Hello everyone, and welcome to today's Uncovering Your Ideal Career webinar brought to you by your Vanderbilt Alumni Association. My name is Drew Webb, and I am the Assistant Director of Student Alumni Engagement with the Alumni Association. I'm so glad you could join us from wherever you are this afternoon. This webinar is just one resource of the many that Vanderbilt provides to our alumni, and I encourage you to familiarize yourself with the additional services that we offer on our alumni webpage, vuconnect.com/career. Today's webinar will last around 45 minutes with time at the end for questions. Please feel free to type questions as you have them into the question box on the side panel of your screen throughout the presentation, and we will make sure Hallie receives them at the end of her presentation. We are recording today's webinar and we'll post it on the Expert Advice page in VU Connect, and we'll share the slides with you via email. Many of you know our presenter today from previous alumni career offerings, and I'm excited she is back with us for this presentation. Hallie Crawford is a career coach, speaker, and author based in Atlanta whose company, Create Your Career Path, helps people find their dream job. Hallie graduated from Vanderbilt in 1995 with degrees in interpersonal communication and psychology, which I think you'll agree is a great combination for a career coach. For more than 10 years, Hallie and her team have helped people of all ages worldwide achieve their career goals. She's published numerous books and is regularly featured as a career expert in the media. In addition to Vanderbilt, many other universities, including UGA, the University of Colorado, and Georgia Tech, also enlist Hallie's expertise for career programming. I'm excited to now turn over this afternoon's presentation to Hallie.
Thank you, Drew. That was perfect. And thank you, everyone, for being here today, especially on your lunch hour. We so appreciate it. So, as Drew said, I'm Hallie Crawford. I'm based in Atlanta, and I've been coaching. It's actually been, I had to kind of count in my head the other day. It will be 14 years this year that I've been coaching and training and had my business, which I know may seem hard to believe because I realize that I look like I'm 12. I'll be 43 this year. And I'm just now learning to appreciate it when people mistake my age. I still get asked sometimes if I'm old enough to sit in the emergency exit row on the airplane. So luckily these days I appreciate it now, before I didn't. And I have several coaches on staff. We help people in career transition with their career direction, their job search, and work performance as well. So I am very excited to be here today to talk with you all about how to effectively brainstorm your career options. And we're going to talk about why this is important and give you some specific tools to make it happen effectively for you, okay? And here's the deal, everybody. We're talking specifically today about career direction and finding that dream job or that right fit, okay? Because I find that this brainstorming different ideas part of our process that we use with our clients tends to be one of the most difficult steps for them, okay? And as Drew said, we will also have time for Q&A at the end. Just enter those into the chat box. Feel free to enter them along the way, while we're talking today, and then we'll address them at the end. So let's dive right in. So first of all, why is this important? Why is this dream job or right fit in terms of a career important? I don't know about you, Drew, but in your experience working with alumni and talking with them, I always find every few years, there is a new Gallup poll or a poll from the conference board, surveys that come out every few years that tell us how many people are unsatisfied at work. This is one of the recent ones on the screen here. From 2013, 70% are unsatisfied at work. It's the reason why I have a job, obviously, right? But the numbers are always just surprising to me. They don't seem to go down like I hope that they would. So it's still a common problem. Too many people are not in the right career fit. And this was me. I want you all to know, by the way, that this was me. I was very unsatisfied about 16 years ago in a full-time job that I had in Chicago, actually. Before I started my business, I was crying in the bathroom at this job. It was so stressful for me and so not a fit. And I tried shopping therapy. That didn't work, by the way. I tried some other things too. But what ended up working for me was working with a career coach and going through this process of thinking about, okay, who am I as a person and what's important to me, but also, everyone, using this process that we use today that I'm going to share with you today, of brainstorming different possible ideas, okay? So it's a very important piece and thing to do, even if by the way, you feel like, I might be somewhat satisfied in my job, I'm not really sure. So let's talk about these categories for just a moment. And by the way, everyone, you will get a PDF of the PowerPoint as well as the recording of this afterwards today via email. And if any of these, for the links that are in there, if they're not live for you, which they should be in a PDF, but if they're not, you can at least copy and paste them. So just know that you'll have these links later on as well. But let's take a look at these three categories, okay? So here's what we find, just to kind of give you some background in terms of how long this transition can take in order to find the right career path for you. So first of all, if you are very satisfied, okay, and in the right fit, what we suggest is you focus on career management. Keep an eye on the next steps that you need to take in case something happens, downsizing, or you decide later on, I need to move on. So take a class every 6 months, evaluate where you are with your career fit every 6 months, attend association meetings, and stay on top of trends in your industry, okay? So with this category, if you feel like, and just kind of take out your pen here, everybody, and mark which one you feel you fall into. Is it very satisfied, somewhat satisfied, or very unsatisfied, okay? So in terms of if you fall into the somewhat satisfied category, let's say, you need to give yourself probably, I would suggest, around 6 months, give or take, of thinking and research, okay? The research that we're talking about today in this specific process really should only be like a month and a half total. It's not going to take 6 months. But when you're looking at your complete transition, you want to give yourself that amount of time. And I always say that to people because you want to make sure that you make the right next step and not just, have a knee-jerk reaction, okay? One of the things, by the way, that we first start out with, one of the exercises we do first with our clients, so you may want to write this down, is we have them write out a list in black and white of what works in your current job or your previous jobs, do both, okay, and what doesn't work. It sounds really basic, and it is, but it helps our clients enormously to say, okay, what are my likes and what are my dislikes? Let me write them out on paper so I can be more objective about them, and that can help you start to determine some of the things that you want to have in your next position, okay? And finally, if you fall into the category down here at the bottom of very unsatisfied, you need to do something now and get started now on this brainstorming process because it can take time to find the next thing and make that transition, okay? With our clients, by the way, just to give you a time frame, defining their direction typically takes about 2 to 3 months, around 2 months, let's say, in order to define their direction. So just think about that in terms of your time frame, okay? And then after that, the implementation can vary from 6 months to 8 months to a year, depending on the industry that they're looking at and their qualifications, okay? So think about, first of all, everyone, which category do you fall into, and set a goal for yourself right now of how much time this brainstorming and the whole transition might take. We know that we need to have a goal right out of the box in order to achieve anything, right? So go ahead and write that down. All right, so here's the good news. That was the bad news about too many people are in the wrong fit or in the wrong career path for them. And here's the deal. The good news is you can find direction and fulfillment. You can have a job you're engaged in. It takes time and effort, everyone, and it is definitely a balancing act of being practical and passionate. And by the way, there will be compromise. I got to tell you, I love what I do, and I feel like I'm meant to do it. But yes, there are days when I'd rather just stay in bed and be independently wealthy, and there are things that, I have compromised on in order to have my business, okay? But the deal is, and this is one really important point I want you all to get, because this is not about being Pollyanna, that everything's, perfect all the time and it's so easy. When you are at choice about what you're compromising on, it makes all the difference in the world. And that's what we work to help our clients understand and realize, is instead of feeling like, oh, I just fell into this job, or oh, it was offered to me so I took it, which I've done many times, instead they're looking at the career model that we use with them and saying, okay, these are my priorities, but if I had to compromise, I could compromise in these areas. And when you all know, everyone, that you've compromised but you've chosen it, oh my gosh, it makes all the difference, okay? So the majority of our clients, they find their new career direction within the 2 years of working with us and making it happen at that point. So I just want you to know there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that's why we're here today. Okay, so why are we talking about the brainstorming of career options piece? So here's the deal. We've talked about why being in the right fit is important and established an approximate time frame for the process. So the reason why we're talking today about the brainstorming career options is because this is one of the hardest things that we find our clients, struggle with, or challenges they have. It's difficult to narrow down your options. Why is it difficult to do that? So take a look at this slide. So first of all, it's hard to do it because there are many factors to consider to find the right fit. Okay, so on our career model that we use, it has 8 pieces on it. People don't realize, oh my gosh, there's 8 things I need to look at in order to know the right career path. They might think there's 3 or 4. And we always have our clients carefully consider all of them and how they fit together. And at the end of our webinar today, we'll talk about there's a program that we're hosting through together with the Alumni Association that covers the career model as well as our process to help you find your direction. And here's the deal, everybody. Career tests. We have clients come to us all the time and they're like, well, I took this career test and it told me I should be a circus clown or, a postman or something, whatever they might be good at. But there are things that they're not interested in, okay? And the reason why that happens is career tests are great. They give us some very good information, but it's only a piece of the puzzle. So the career tests only test for some of the pieces that are on our career model, not all of them, okay? So that's why that might have happened to you if any of you have taken a career test and why you're thinking, well, okay, I might be good at this stuff, but it's not going to be rewarding for me, or it may not pay me enough. That's what happens. It's not giving you all of the information that you need, helpful for just those few pieces. And second thing here, if you take a look at this slide, there's no website out there with a comprehensive list of careers. There are some websites that I will show you all in a little bit that come closer to that than I've ever seen. So as I've been doing this over the years, there are more career brainstorming websites out there that I'm just so thrilled for because it can help people with this process. So I will share those with you. But as we all know, it's not like we can spit the information or put the information, I should say, into like this supercomputer at this website and it's going to spit out the right thing for us because finding the right fit is such a personal process. Okay, and what happens to people as a result is people that are already unhappy and pretty frustrated because a lot of times when people come to us, by the time they do, they've been unhappy for a long time and some of them are very miserable. They can become overwhelmed and fearful and they may just be like, I can't deal with this, so I'm just going to go back to my job and figure it out later, and then years pass and they look back and, oh gosh, wonder what happened, okay? The result is they're overwhelmed and fearful, and they don't know where to start. And so this, by the way, everyone, is one of the first things you can do, what we're talking about today, in order to brainstorm some ideas and get the ball rolling for you. I'll give you a quick example, and then we'll move to the next slide. I had a prospect. It was last year, actually, and he called me 1 year later, almost to the day. And he said, Hallie, I talked to you a year ago. It was like January 15th or something like that. And unhappy in my job, and I didn't do anything about it. I just got scared. I didn't know where to start, whatever. So it's been a whole year. I'm ready to work with you guys now. He wasted a whole nother year of his life not doing anything about it. And so today, at the end of this, if you all even just take one action step, a small step from what we're talking about, I will be thrilled because it is definitely a get the ball rolling type of process. Once you start taking even just baby steps towards it, it will get easier, I promise you, okay? So that was our problem. Here is our solution. So this is what we're going to talk about today on the call, and I'm going to give you a specific process for online research for brainstorming ideas. We're going to focus on that one. Okay, so there's basically, though, 2 solutions. So if you look at the slide here, there's online research and brainstorming with others, which we have our clients do both in addition to working through our workbook and our program. Okay, so we're going to focus on online research today, but let's touch on brainstorming with others for just a moment, the dream team and informational interviews. So one of the things, everyone, if you are looking to try to brainstorm different possible career paths for you, okay, is this dream team concept. Find 2 people that can help you with your search along the way. Go ahead and get out your pen right now and write down 2 people you can think of in this moment. A friend, a family member, former coworker, whatever works for you, but who are 2 people that are helpful and supportive and positive that could maybe help you brainstorm ideas, and as you're doing the online research, kind of you could bounce ideas off of them, okay? So go ahead and write that down now. I always like to call this the dream team. Yes, I'm kind of cheating from, what is it, the, like, I don't know, basketball or whatever it is. So yes, I stole that, okay? Just don't tell them. But having a dream team in terms of your transition, everybody, not just in terms of the brainstorming piece of it, is critical to making it successful. So I want you to have supportive people, whether it's a coach like me, friends or family, throughout the process, okay? Then informational interviews, looking at the slide again. And by the way, if you look down here, there are 2 links. More information, a couple blog posts that I've written about informational interviews. So you've got that there for later, okay? So here's what I suggest, everyone, is once you're starting to brainstorm ideas and you've narrowed it down to maybe 2 or 3 possible options, conduct 3 to 5 informational interviews with people in each area you're considering. These are short meetings with people in the industries you're interested in to learn more about how to get your foot in the door and if those career paths are the right fit. It is not about asking them for a job, but informational interviews are a great way to do this. We have all of our clients do this to learn like what it's really like in those jobs. It's great to think about, oh, what it might be like, but to really find out day to day what it's really like, you need to conduct these informational interviews as well. So the brainstorming with others, everyone, is a good second step after you've conducted the online research, which is what we're going to talk about today. Okay, so I just kind of wanted to give you a heads up, a little extra info there. All right, anything else with that? No, we're good. Okay, so let's talk about the online research. And I may talk a little bit slower during these next few slides, just so that you guys can process, what we're talking about. Not because it's hard, but because I want you to remember that you need to be really methodical about going through this process and follow the steps closely. Because I don't know about you all, but how many times have you sat down to maybe research something, I don't know, buying curtains for your house or whatever it is, and all of a sudden, 45 minutes have passed and you have no idea, you totally got lost in the internet and you have no idea where you started. That's the problem that a long time ago I found our clients had, so I developed this process to help them structure their searching in a very good way, okay? So we're focusing on online research today because it's the first step, and by the way, we don't want you to go out there talking to people in informational interviews until you're kind of armed and dangerous with some information and have a sense of things. You don't have to know everything about their industry because that's why you're talking with them, but honestly, you don't want to sound completely clueless. You need to sound like you've done enough of your homework, that you care enough about this, and you've got some information already. So this is why we want to do this first, okay? So for all of our clients, we have them walk through this 4-step process to help them brainstorm ideas online using the internet, okay? Through online research, you can learn about different career paths you may not have known about before. The key here, as I said before, is to stay organized in your search so you don't get lost in the internet or overwhelmed with information. On this slide in particular, so take a look here, this is an overview of the process, and we're going to go through it step by step in subsequent slides and explain it, okay? So first of all, we have our clients create a list of keywords based on interests, skills, values. We'll talk about that more in a few minutes. Then we have them use those keywords on general search sites like Google or Bing, etc. Then career brainstorming sites. I'll share those with you in a moment. It's so funny, guys. I'm actually like pointing to the screen here like you can see me do that. I'll use my mouse instead. The brainstorming sites, we'll talk about those. And then also we have them brainstorm and plug in the keywords on job boards too. And I'll show you some job boards that we like. But I wanted to give you this quick example of a client, Catherine, that I was working with a few years ago in Denver, and why this online research is so helpful. So Catherine, she just happened to be interested eventually in owning like a bed and breakfast. That was one of her dreams. And it wasn't like she had won the lotto and, was able to go open one the next day. So we were like, okay, how do we make this happen in the long run, but even figure out if it's the right thing for you to do in the first place? And when she started conducting this online research, it was just amazing to me. It still amazes me today, guys, that she found and identified there is a huge association for bed and breakfast owners. She found a convention that was coming up that she could attend in the Southeast. And she also found classes. They had classes that she could take in order to learn how to run a bed and breakfast. We would, had no idea about this before that. And also what she found out by reading articles and looking at these sites that she found during the course of the researching, that being an in-sitter, like a babysitter when the, the bed and breakfast owners go out of town, you could actually make more money. And she attended the classes in order to, or started those classes in order to become certified in becoming a bed and breakfast owner. That would make it a little bit easier for her to be an in-sitter. Bottom line, had she not done this research, she wouldn't have found out about all of these opportunities and possibilities, okay? So here's the deal, everyone. If you want to think about this from a real practical, tangible standpoint and planning it out for yourself, and then we're going to go into how to stay organized, and then we'll go through these 4 steps, okay? What I would suggest is to break it down for yourself into like 30 minutes to an hour per week. You don't even have to do an hour because you can get a lot of information in a short period of time. So get out your pen for me right now, and what I want you to write down is, okay, what can I commit to? I'm going to commit to 30 minutes every week, sitting in front of the computer doing the research, okay? And then the next thing I want you to write down is, when can you do the work? Is it better that you wake up a little bit earlier on Saturday every week for a few weeks? Is it better that like Wednesday evening on your way back from work? I've had clients do this a ton because they'll say, well, Hallie, I go home and I just sit in front of the TV and then I don't do the work. They'll bring their work or their computer with them to the office, and on their way home one night, they'll stop at Starbucks or Panera or whatever. Sit down for 30 minutes before you go home, before you get into relax mode, and do this research there, okay? So everyone right now for me, write down when you can do it and for how long, and come up with a strategy. Do you do it on your lunch hour maybe when you're most productive? Do you do it in the morning? Whatever is best for you, write it down, schedule it on your calendar. You'll be more likely to make it happen, okay? So that's kind of setting the stage for this. Let's keep going. Okay, so staying organized. I've talked about this already a couple of times. So here's the deal, okay, is I find it's the most helpful to use Excel or a similar software if you use a Mac to track your relevant keywords, the ones that are working for you. I'm pulling up the things that, career ideas that you would actually like, your career ideas that you're coming up with, pages you want to revisit, and any other requirements in terms of experience, but also salary. What do they pay, okay? This sheet here, the sample Excel sheet, is a great one to use. It's already set up for you. So feel free to go back to the presentation later on and download this sheet that you can use. It's set up for you already with preset tabs according to these categories that can help you with your search. So feel free to use that. It's something that I've created for our clients. And by the way, everyone, and Drew, I forgot to double check this. I will check the link afterwards, and if for any reason the link's not working, just let us know, or I will have that figured out, and we'll send you a separate link in an email, just FYI, just in case, okay? I recently updated our website, and some of the links got, we had to move them around a little bit. Okay, so before we get into step 1 with the keywords, everyone, here's an overview of the websites that we suggest you use, okay? So remember a couple slides back, we talked about general search sites. Google, Bing, that's all I mean here. Whatever you tend to use for your, your internet searching. Some of the brainstorming sites, and there's one I want to add here, so get out your pen and paper, everybody. The brainstorming sites that we have found clients, like to use and find helpful. MyPursuit.com is one. You can plug keywords into that one. ONetCenter.org, Wet Feet, Glassdoor. These are all good brainstorming sites that if you plug in keywords, you will pull up either job descriptions or salary requirements for these different ideas that you have in career paths. Another one, by the way, is MyPath.com. is a new one that I just found recently, and I'm actually going to write that one down, everybody, and I'm going to double check it for you, so I'll make sure that we got that one right. If anyone's online right now and can double check and make sure that's the right one and would put it in the chat box, that would be great. It's a newer one that I just discovered more recently. And then we also have people use and plug in their keywords into job boards. Some of the job boards that I like is Indeed.com, Simply Hired. I have been told by clients that Indeed and Simply Hired, they tend to overlap, and they have a lot of the same jobs on them. So just know that you might be able to use one or the other of those. I really like LinkedIn's job board as well. And you can also find, everyone, industry-specific sites. So like idealist.org is a great one for people who are interested in working in nonprofit, as an example. And marketinghire.com, another one for marketing jobs. So once you start to narrow things down a little bit more and kind of have narrowed your funnel, you can start also looking at industry-specific sites, okay? All right, so that's the overview of the sites that we like to have our clients use. And if anyone, by the way, knows of other ones, please feel free to share those in the chat box to help everyone too. All right, so step number one in terms of the brainstorming, the online brainstorming process, is to develop a list of keywords. And I usually have to help clients with this, just being really honest with you, because sometimes they're like, okay, which are the right ones and how do I pull them out? Let me give you some ideas of how you can come up with your keywords, everybody. You can think about your interests, your career values, and skills as possible ideas, okay? So for instance, you may have an interest in landscaping, gardening, reading, data analysis, management skills. Or, for example, if you highly value education, you might write down, well, I really want to educate people in some way. So let me also look at teaching, but I'm not sure if I want to be a teacher. Let me also write down, you know, mentoring or coaching or training, because that could give you some other related ideas. And so, by the way, everyone, while you're coming up with keywords, the website like synonym.com is really helpful, because if you're struggling to come up with more keywords related to what you're thinking about, that one can give you some additional ideas, okay? And for example, if we talk about skills, if you have a skill in organizing data, financial analysis, again, marketing or presentation skills, you could use those as possible keywords as well, okay? By the way, it's not important whether the keyword is one word or a phrase. It could be either. It could describe a specific task you like to perform, like event planning or database management or market research, as well as a particular industry you're curious about. So careers in engineering or careers related to engineering, you could plug that into Google. And I know, guys, it might sound like, well, that sounds kind of obvious and dumb, but I've got to tell you, when I do these searches for clients, I find so much good information, like for example, and then we'll go to the next slide here in step number 2, but one time I was working with a client and she was trying to figure out, okay, she liked psychology, she was interested in maybe considering being a psychologist, but she didn't know, okay, how, you know, what are all the different, you know, niches I could focus on or specialties in psychology. We Googled careers in psychology and found from, I think it was the University of Alabama at Birmingham, had a full list of all of the things you can specialize in. So you just don't know what you're going to find on the internet, everybody. And Lauren, thank you. It's my plan, thank you, my plan instead of mypath.com, everyone. I think I get stuck on the path thing because that's what I use when I talk with people about their career path. So Lauren, thank you so much for looking that up. So add myplan.com to your list of brainstorming websites as well. All right, so step number 1 is to define your keywords. And by the way, everyone, if you need help with this, this is where using your dream team and brainstorming with friends and family can help you. Okay. All right, so let's look at step 2. I always like using this fishbowl. If you all have attended any one of my webinars before, I just like this a lot because it's a good demonstration of, number 1, like how we have to cast a wider net, but also about we've got to take risks with this. So one of the things I wanted to tell you is when you're brainstorming career ideas at the beginning, everyone, anything goes. Even if an idea seems crazy to you at the moment, I want you to put it down because it may lead you to another idea that is the right fit for you. you do need to be practical. I get that. And so it's not about, trying to go get a job that you're not qualified for, or that is just not realistic for you. But at the very beginning, everyone, when you're doing this first step, put down anything that looks appealing, because one idea could lead you to another that is the right one, okay? So first of all, after you've developed your list of keywords, we're going to look on the general search sites. This helps you cast a wider net. So like we said, with these general search sites, whether it's kind of a bigger fishbowl, if you will, you can plug in careers and data analysis, jobs in education, etc. They will help you give you like lists of different possible careers underneath that keyword. There might be articles that you can read about that career path, whatever it is, okay? And here's the thing, and I don't think, just bear with me guys, 1 second. Yes, okay, one of the really important things I want you to get and to consider and keep in mind in this second step here, everyone, is I always want you to copy and paste the sites that you want to come back to. You can look at them for a moment and say, okay, this is a good site, this is worthwhile, but you want to copy and paste it and come back to it later as a third step for yourself. Because if you go and dig into that website too soon and too quickly, you might get lost in the internet. So scroll through, see which sites you want to copy and paste or revisit later, put them in your Excel sheet, okay? All right, let's keep going. Step number 3 is to plug your keywords into brainstorming sites. So we talked about those a few minutes ago. Keywords plugged into these sites can help you narrow down your ideas and also begin to make it real a little bit, because they'll show you, okay, here are what some of the requirements are. So for example, mypursuit.com, that was one of the sites we mentioned earlier, that will give you the compensation, and it will also give you the requirements in terms of experience and education and skills. So it's one of those neat sites that kind of has all of them, and it also will link you to job openings too, okay? So the brainstorming sites it's one more step down in the funnel, okay? So you want to plug your keywords into here. It can help you begin to make it more real. As a reminder, whatever looks appealing to you, copy and paste those pages as well to revisit later. There is an article here below about brainstorming career ideas like we're talking about if you want to read more on that in a little bit afterwards, okay? And then step 4 is to visit job boards, okay? There might be some other ones that are not on this list that you prefer, and that's fine. So the last step is to plug your keywords into job boards, okay? So obviously we talked about LinkedIn. We talked about Simply Hired and Indeed. I like these two better, everyone, because they just don't have as much, junk on them. Like I've found when clients are looking on Monster and Career Builder, sometimes there are things that are, more commission-based or part-time. They have to weed through or wade through things a little bit too much sometimes. Career Builder and Monster, they're great for, specific purposes, and they can help you cast your net wider, so you could start with those at the beginning. But know that what I have found from experience, at least, that Simply Hired and Indeed and LinkedIn are a little bit cleaner, okay? And also, I wanted to suggest to you, too, to use your alumni network. So I always suggest this to our clients, and they tend to forget it, that, oh, wait a minute, I could conduct informational interviews, and in some cases, maybe even there's job boards for specific schools. I could brainstorm ideas or conduct informational interviews with fellow alum. It is so much better to reach out to a warm connection, someone who, if you said in the subject line, referral from VU Connect or whatever it was, fellow Vanderbilt alumni, they're going to be more likely to respond to you and brainstorm ideas with you or to conduct those informational interviews with. So everyone, when you get to that step and it's time for you to talk with people, please don't forget your alumni network. It is huge and critical. And by the way, Lauren was telling me the other day as well how interactive and large the Vanderbilt LinkedIn group is. It's around 17,000 members. Great place to start to brainstorm ideas with people, do those informational interviews. The other thing, while I'm on LinkedIn, that I wanted to say before we go to the next slide and we'll start to wrap things up, before Q&A is one of the things that you all can do, by the way, when you're brainstorming ideas, but then trying to figure out, okay, what would the qualifications be? And, you know, what's the career progression for someone in this job or in this industry, is look on LinkedIn. Find LinkedIn profiles of people that do what you're thinking you want to do, and look at what their background is. This is one of those other kind of sneaky ways you can use LinkedIn that we always have our clients do, because you can start to identify themes. Okay, I'm noticing that everyone has this degree, or oh, everyone has this certification. That might be something that I need to get, okay? So step number 4, again, everyone, is to plug your keywords into the job boards, because this will give you tangible jobs that have those keywords in it, and not always just in the title, by the way, and this is part of why I like this. The keyword might be in the job description, and that, again, can help you cast your net a little bit wider. Okie doke. All right. So last couple of slides here, and I want you all to start thinking about one action step that you will take at the end of this webinar, because I don't know about you, but you know, I know a lot of people, me included, will attend a webinar like this or a presentation or whatever it is, and we'll be like so gung-ho, and then our phone rings and our child is sick or whatever, and we forget to do it. So I really want you all to write down at least one thing you'll do in the next week, okay? Really quickly, and then we're going to go through the 4 steps. If anyone needs more assistance with what we're talking about today and would like to talk to us about the program that's coming up or about our services, I do offer a 20-minute strategy session. It's complimentary, so just feel free. This is actually a calendar link. You can book some time with me if you need to, if you want to learn more about any of that. And we will be doing a door prize with my career transition ebook. We'll be sending that out. Drew is going to, you know, blindfolded, I'm sure, pick a name out of a hat, and we'll send that to one of you. Just as a thank you for participating today, we really appreciate it. So feel free to use that link afterwards. All right, so final, the 4 steps, just final review here before we go to Q&A. Keywords, we've got our general search sites, the brainstorming sites, job boards. You want to spend about 30 minutes a week on this. Probably for about at least like 2 or 3 weeks to start. You should start to have some ideas at that point. Okay, all right, so I want you all to get out your pen and paper again and write down one action step that you will take in the next week between now and next Tuesday. Reminder to make it specific. Give yourself a deadline. I just gave you a deadline. You can adjust it a little bit if you need to. But make it specific. I'm going to find one member of my dream team, and I'm going to talk about my ideas. I'm going to spend 30 minutes on, you know, the career brainstorming sites, because I've already done the Google searching or whatever it is. Write that down for us, okay? More information here at the bottom, article about staying organized during your search. One of your action steps could be to download the Excel sheet that we talked about too. So write that down for us. Feel free to share it in the chat box as we go to Q&A here, okay? And then last 2 slides before we close for this, before questions, did want to mention we have our next Define Your Dream Job Commodore Career Intensive coming up. It starts Tuesday, March 1st. That's next week. It is our spring series. This is a fantastic program if you want to figure out how to make your current job more fulfilling, or whether you should stay or go and figure that out. But especially if you want to change direction and you need help with defining your career path. That is what this is about. We get fantastic results with this. People know their direction at the end of it. They've got a little bit more informational interviews to do, you know, and some more legwork to make it happen. But they figure it out from this program in these 4 sessions. So it's a fantastic program. I encourage you to check it out. Oh, and Lauren, you know what I just realized? Well, and Drew, I should say Drew, I did not update the link here. So what we should probably do is if you could send out the updated link with the follow-up email, that would be great. I forgot to do that on my slide here on the right-hand side. Okay. So feel free, by the way, everyone, if you have questions about this program, to schedule time with me to discuss it as well. I'd be happy to talk with you about it because I want to make sure it's the right fit for you. All right. So I want to close my part of it for the moment before we do questions with a final thought here. So I always end my webinars and presentations with this quote, everybody, because for me, when I was scared to make my transition, and even scared to like brainstorm ideas because it was so overwhelming to me. This quote is what got me through all of those tough, fearful times. The greatest risk in life is not taking one. I knew that at the end of my life, when I was like 80, sitting in a rocking chair, talking to my grandkids, whatever, that I wanted to say at least that I tried, even if I fell flat on my face, that I tried, and I didn't stay in that unsatisfying job. That is what kept me motivated and going. So I want to leave you with that final thought because I know this process can seem overwhelming and be kind of scary for people. Please just take one action step, even if it's a baby step, okay? All right, Drew, so I'm good with my slides for the moment. If you can go ahead and take a look at the chat box and let us know if we've got any questions, we can go ahead and field those for a few minutes.
Sure, we already have a couple that have come in. So the first one is from Cliff, and he asked, how much enjoyment can we really expect from a job? Isn't work not supposed to be fun?
I love that one. That's great. So here's what I would say about it. It is absolutely like, yeah, it's not every single day that, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it for me. Every day I'm fulfilled by my job, hands down. But yes, there are days that are better than others and some that are worse than others. There are tasks that I don't particularly like to perform, but here's the deal. You want the ratio to be higher. So you want it to be, and I'm just going to kind of make this up for the moment, to be honest with you, that about like 75% to 80% of the time, you're a pretty happy camper because honestly, that's how I feel. So there are times when, yeah, I don't want to do certain things about what I do. I'm not as happy with it. There are bad days. But 80% of the time, I'm a pretty happy camper. So I just want you to know that it is possible to be that happy with it. Keep in mind that you will have to compromise, and that's what I was talking about at the beginning, that it's not to say that everything is going to be perfect, because even for me, no, not everything is perfect. But the things that I really want to be perfect are. And that's why I took the time to identify this is what I really want. And if I have these things over here in place, then I can deal with the rest of the stuff that I don't like as much because those are the priorities for me. That's the way you want to think about it. Okay, I'll be quiet because I get excited and a little too passionate and say too much.
Okay, great. We have another question from Anna who asked for recent graduates, how long do you recommend staying in a first job before looking for one that's a better fit?
Ooh, that's a really good question. So there's two things to consider there. First, you've got to make sure that, hey, it's really not the right fit for me. You have to give it enough time to know that for sure. And number two, you don't want to look like a job hopper. And actually, I should say there's a third one. You want to spend enough time like figuring out what the right next step is so that you make the right choice. So there's three things to consider there. In terms of length of time, I feel like it's 6 months at least to get your sea legs with a job and really know what it's all about. So if you can give it between 6 months to a year to really know, then I think that's going to be better as a general rule. But honestly, I have had people, it's situational I think too, I've had people know like within the first month because it's like their boss is just terrible and perhaps abusive or whatever. So obviously, there's going to be some exceptions to that rule and that general time frame. But that's what I would say, kind of from an overview perspective. Anything else, Drew?
Okay, here's another one. What is the deciding factor between something which should just be a hobby versus something that should be a career?
Oh, that's so good. Well, a couple of deciding factors. One, if you can't make enough money at your hobby, it's not going to pay your bills and take care of yourself, it's not going to work. Another deciding factor is if you're not qualified to do it. Like, sorry, but if you're not good at it, good enough at it to make a living at it. And another one would be if it's going to take the fun out of it. So there's plenty of hobbies that I have that, like, for example, I love riding horses and I lease a horse. But I'm not going to work at the barn. That would just like suck the life out of it for me. So that's another one to consider too. Being realistic, but also keeping it fulfilling, keeping it in the right bucket so that it's actually still fulfilling for you and not a drag. Any others, Drew? How are we doing?
Here's one more. I have a couple more. I'm working on finishing my PhD, and I don't think I want to use it. Should I finish it?
Ooh, That's a good question. It depends on how far into it you are. If you're pretty close, finish it. Just get it done, because you never know. Like, that last little bit could give you some experience that you wouldn't have had otherwise, or a class that you really enjoy, you know, something like that. If you're halfway through, I think you need to think about it some more and talk with me about it, because you need to know, because it's a lot of work. Like, is it going to help you with your next career step? So obviously that's the critical thing, is it worth it? Is it going to give you what you need, like give you a job when you're done, or not, in what you want to be doing? And if it's not, you need to think about it and consider it. So I don't know, halfway mark is what I would be thinking about as a maybe, but if you're past that, I would just finish it. It's hard to give that advice, just kind of blanket, but that's what I would say off the cuff.
Okay, and Hallie, what's your advice for brainstorming re-entering the workplace after a period of time staying at home and raising a family?
Okay, I would say do the same things that we've talked about, but one of the things that happens in that situation, is a great question, is we tend to discount what we do well and say, well, I've just, let's say, been at home, and what are my skills, and I don't have recent experience and all of that. So you need to think about and interview and talk with other friends and family members too about, okay, what have I been doing during this time? Make a list of those things. What are the skills you've been using as well? Because there's a confidence issue with that. So in terms of the brainstorming, though, getting back into things, I would definitely look at what you did before, though, too. Even if it's not exactly the right fit or what you're thinking you want to do long term, just because if your goal is to, hey, let me get back into the workforce and get some experience, it would obviously be easier for you to do that with something that you've already done before. And then you could consider like shifting over to something else over time. That's one way to approach it. Okay.
Okay, thank you everyone so much for your question. We have two more, and then we'll wrap everything up.
Cool.
So here's one more question for you, Hallie. Is it better to pursue starting my own business while I am young and can accept more risk, or should I wait until I have more experience?
Ooh, that's a good one. Without knowing more of the details, I would say young and more risk, because I'll tell you just from my own experience, I started mine young when, at the time though, I was engaged. We weren't married yet, so I did have some stability, and that did make a difference. I kind of had a backup, right, having a partner. But it's a night and day difference. Starting a business now that I have an 8-year-old son that I need to, take care of, I would do it now. So gain some experience, take some classes, interview other people, do everything that you can to gain as much experience as you possibly can, but start sooner than later when you can take more risks. Absolutely. What's the next one, Drew?
All right, the last one is, if you are currently in between jobs, should you pursue another job that you know you ultimately won't enjoy, or focus 100% on finding a better fit in your career path?
If you can financially afford to take a little bit more time to find the better fit, I'd go for that. Because the problem is to apply for a new job, get into that job, ramp up where you're doing even a decent enough job there, and then to quit, let's say 6 months into it, I don't think that's worth it. So if financially you can afford to take a little bit more time and spend a lot of time on this to move it forward as quickly as you can, then I would absolutely do that. Take the extra time. It's definitely worth it. And you can check out our 4-session program too, because that could help you. It's pretty quick. It helps you move forward fast. Okay? Are we good, Drew?
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Hallie, for sharing your wisdom and encouragement with us today. And thank you also to all of our attendees for participating. I just wanted to remind everyone, again, to check out all of the career resources and events, both electronic and in person, provided to you by the Vanderbilt Alumni Association. This includes the upcoming 4-week Commodore Career Intensive that Hallie mentioned. And later this afternoon, I'm going to be sending a follow-up email to everyone with a link that will lead you to more information and registration for the Career Intensive. And in this email, I will also request that you fill out a short survey about today's webinar because we are always looking to improve upon our offerings to alumni. So please be in touch and let us know how we can best support you. Best of luck to all of you as you consider next steps professionally and personally. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.